Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
If you know me, you'll know that I enjoy having conversations with people. I do. I mean, if the conversation's a good conversation where it's not a monologue on either side, not somebody trying to make me just continually talk or they're continually talking, I enjoy those conversations. You can learn a lot about people. You can share about yourself. I had a conversation over the weekend with somebody that went to the same high school, don't know each other, didn't know each other. We graduated several years apart. Our paths didn't cross at all, though this person knows people I know and vice versa. And we had a great conversation. Now, albeit it was on the phone, but we had a great conversation, a lot of sharing, learning about them, their journey. And it's fun, and I enjoy having conversations with people. Short conversations with the person who will serve me at the restaurant, somebody at the checkout counter, going to networking events, doing what I'll call get acquainted calls. I really enjoy having conversations. One thing, admittedly, that makes me uncomfortable about having conversations is eye contact. Now, we're told that we need to have eye contact. You need to look somebody in the eye. And, for the longest time, I felt like, I really struggle with this. I'm not looking at them in the eye. I'm looking away. I'm doing this. And I've really kind of felt awkward about it. And, we hear all sorts of stuff. Read, people tell you, you need to have eye contact. You need to have eye contact. And I've just kind of taken that at face value. You watch movies or television programs, and I'm not talking about reality TV. I'm talking about just a Hollywood movie or a syndicated television program, something that's been put through a lot of production, a lot of editing, and you get the sense that those people are looking each other dead in the eye. And it's really, I don't think they intend to trick us, but they do trick us to think, they're looking right at the camera and they're talking right to the camera, and that's supposed to be the eyes of the other person, so they're looking them in the eye. And so with what you read and hear out there, have great eye contact. And what we see in the media, and you watch the news, what are they looking at? They're looking right at the camera. They're looking right into your eyes. They're not, but they kind of are. And you feel like they are. You can become a little bit uncomfortable. We call it a little bit of an imposter syndrome, I guess. Is that, I don't measure up when it comes to looking at people in the eye. And I've ran across some information about some studies that I've done. This is recent stuff that's out there. And what they say is that mutual eye gazing, that eye-to-eye contact, really amounts to about 3.5% of the time when people are interacting. That's it. So maybe I'm not so horrible after all. Go on and read about read information about the study, is that a lot of times people are looking at each other's mouths or they're looking away. And when you're looking at somebody else's mouth, the other person can't tell if you're looking them in the eye or looking at their mouth or looking at their mouth. They can't tell. And so if you're looking at their mouth, I would assume their nose would be the same thing. They're, looking. You're going to look at somebody's talking. You're going to look at their mouth because their mouth is moving. But perhaps their nose. But if you're looking at the eye, at their nose, or in their mouth, they feel like you're looking them in the eye, and so you get credit for looking them in the eye. most of the time, most of the time, people are looking away, um, and that's normal, right? Our eyes are, I find when I'm talking, my eyes are darting around, and I feel like I've got this voice in the back of my head, which has been programmed by people who say, you need to have great eye contact. You need to have great eye contact, and just kind of hammering away at that. Um, that oh, geez, I must really be weird. I'm not looking at people in the eye, and the reality is I'm probably not weird. People, certainly there are people out there who will look at their shoes. Um, there's somebody I know who she's a principal of a school and was always looking up at the back of the room, not looking at the audience at all, looking up at where the ceiling met the wall in the back of the room. And to me, that was kind of odd. There was never really any sort of attempt to have any sort of eye contact. They were always looking up, so they weren't looking at their feet, but they certainly weren't looking at me. Um, and so, yeah, we do run into people where it's kind of weird, but generally speaking, according to research, is that eye-to-eye contact is happening less than 4% of the time. 3.5% is um, what they come up with. It's rare. I mean, 3.5% is rare. I mean, it means if you're, well, I don't want to do the math. You're in a 10-minute conversation. It's not even 30 seconds that you're looking at somebody eye to eye. And what they found is that when people actually look others directly in the eye, it's usually an indication. It's an indication that they're done talking. So if I'm talking to you and we're having a conversation, if I'm looking at your mouth, I might look at your ears. I might look at, your, uh, the suit you're wearing or the blazer you're wearing, or maybe it's a brooch or whatever. Or um, hopefully not looking around the room looking for somebody else, but, looking here, looking there. Um, that's perfectly normal. That's perfectly normal. And so if I'm talking, I'm doing these things. And then when I'm done, I'll look you in the eye. And it's kind of a social indication that, okay, I'm done. I'm done. Um, and that was just another thing that they had discovered. So what this really tells us is that um, direct eye contact is really very rare. Um, and avoiding it all the time certainly um, certainly is makes people think you're untrustworthy. I guess it's the best way, or that you're low in confidence. That there's some social anxiety, or maybe just a poor communicator. If you're always looking at your shoes, or fiddling with your phone or whatever while you talk, yeah, that's a little off-putting. But if you're able to look at somebody in the mouth, and what the research says is when you're looking at somebody in the mouth, and they have ways of measuring this stuff. When you're looking at somebody in the mouth or the eyes, it's deemed by the person you're communicating with to be you're looking them in the eyes. But even then, they found it's only 12% of the time. So direct eye-to-eye contact is about 3.5% of the time. Looking somewhere on that face that they're going to deem as direct eye contact is really only about 12% of the time. So I probably, I've got this voice in my head saying, "Hey Frank, you need to look this person in the eye." They probably think I'm a weirdo because I'm looking them dead in the eye and I'm trying to do this. And it's really more abnormal than it is normal. I guess what this says is that what we see on television and in the movies with actors looking one another in the eyes is totally unrealistic, totally not true. Obviously, these are stories about people flying and conjuring up magic. Come on, of course it's totally not true, or it's not going to. It will take a departure from reality at at any point, and it does. And we should just accept that. But when we listen to what other people talk about with respect to having conversations with others and having eye contact, we need to give ourselves some grace. That we need to give ourselves some grace if we're not that person who is continually looking at somebody in the eye. If you are looking down here or there, I find myself looking up, and I'm looking for words in my mind. I know that's kind of an odd sort of a thing, but people who are body language experts will say, well, you can tell that they are searching their memory. That's a way of kind of searching your memory. But then it's like, okay, I'm not looking them in the eye. I'm not looking them in the eye. I really need to be looking them in the eye. And the reality is I don't necessarily need to be looking them in the eye, but for about 3.5%. Now, does it need to be precise? No, but somewhere in that general range. Look at their mouth, look around, just kind of be natural. And that's the best way to have eye contact. Just don't. This is the lesson for me, at least. Maybe you're all on board with this, but this is the lesson for me, is don't stress out about it. Just be natural. Look them in the eye occasionally. Certainly look at their mouth. But if you're looking at a shoulder, or you're looking at something, or you're looking beyond them, or looking at the floor, and your eyes are darting around, not wildly, but if you're not always just fixated on them, that's okay. And certainly when you're listening, you should try and be listening, but knowing that they're not going to be looking at you. If it's a normal sort of a thing, they're not going to be looking at you. And I've discovered that with respect to Zoom conversations. Like, okay, this person's really not even looking at me. They're not looking at the camera. And sometimes it can be off because you don't know where people's cameras are. But I've started to notice more and more that, okay, I'm not having this, evening news reporter kind of a conversation where we're both locked into looking at what's going on the screen. They're taking notes, they're looking at other things, so on and so forth. And so it's all really perfectly natural. So 3.5%, keep that number in mind. As you have conversations, talk to people, or as you have conversations, of course, talk to people. But take note of the eye contact as they're talking and you're talking, and just be natural about it.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.